Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Wellness Wednesday with Dr. Latoya Wells. You already know who I am, so there's no need for me to reintroduce myself again. But for those of you who don't know me, check out my bio, check out some of the other Wellness Wednesdays so that you can get to know me a little bit more. I'm Dr. Latoya Wells, and tonight we're going to be discussing a topic that impacts us all. Just a little recap about last week. We are in the month of October, and as you know, October is a month of all things, right? And one of the major things that is celebrated or highlighted or talked about or advocated for or researched is breast cancer. And I don't know about you, but breast cancer has impacted my family personally, as well as some of my friends and sister friends and colleagues and people that I know many different ways. And so I dare not talk about any other topic without highlighting the survivors and the warriors of breast cancer, those women and men who have been diagnosed with breast cancer, who have family members who've been diagnosed with breast cancer, who have overcome breast cancer, meaning in remission, have been cured, have gone through the process and are on the other end. And for those who are in the midst of, in the thick of it right now, you are in our thoughts and our prayers. And for those of you who have lost loved ones, me including, to breast cancer, we are holding you up. We are lifting you up. And this is an opportunity to say their name, to remember the good times with them, to remember the impact that they had on your life and in this world. I'm grateful that I've been able to walk alongside so many women who have gone through breast cancer and who are actively right now walking that journey. Just holding some space for them tonight. Tonight, though, we have another topic that we're going to discuss, and it's something that impacts us all. It is our emotional wellness and stress and how we handle these things, right? Because as you know, if you've been listening to me in Wellness Wednesday, we've been talking about stress and how it impacts us and how we can put things into place that will help us deal with stress. And so we're not allowing it to cause issues within our bodies, right? And so we're going to focus on protecting our health inside and out. It's okay to look good on the outside, but what happens if we don't feel good on the inside? We need to do our best to make sure the look on the outside matches what we are feeling and what's we're experiencing on the inside. So we're going to talk about something that, again, it impacts every single one of us, our emotional well-being and stress. So how do you deal with stress? I can tell you, I'll always speak about myself. I tend to, when I'm stressed, there's some people who can't tell that I'm stressed because I tend to, or what I thought was hide it very well. I internalize it. And what I found is that's not good. It's not good. So when we look at some statistics, we know that stress is unavoidable, right? Stress is going to happen, right? But suffering from stress is not. It's not. So there are things that we can do that will help us deal with, manage, and walk through stressful events in our lives. There's individuals who have highly stressful jobs. I mean, day in, day out, they're dealing with high level stress. There's individuals who have stressors that are coming from different areas in their life that's kind of snowballing all at once. So, how do we help those individuals navigate that? Did you know that 75% of adults report at least one stress symptom every week? What are those symptoms? What are some of the symptoms of stress? Fatigue, tension, irritability are some of the most common symptoms that are described when individuals talk about stress. We're going to unpack what emotional wellness really means, right? How do we recognize that we are well emotionally? How do we recognize when we're off balance? And how do we get back in line into that balance that we need? Because your peace of mind is your health too. And there's a slogan that's been going around is health is the new wealth. right? You can have all the money in the world, but if you're stressed out, if you have diabetes, if you have high blood pressure, if you're stressed and those stressors are causing impacts on your physical body and mental well-being and mental state, then you might as well be broke, right? What good is having money if you are dealing with all these issues? And so I don't wish anybody to be broke, right? I want all of us to be wealthy millionaires and all that stuff. And today I had a conversation via text with my daughter, and she said, I'm trying to figure out this money code. I said, when you figure it out, let me in on it. And she said, bet. So I'm waiting on her. And again, stress is unavoidable. We're going to deal with stress. When you're in traffic and you're trying to get somewhere and you left home early and there's a traffic jam, or you get a flat tire. One thing I've come to recognize is that when something happens that delays me, chances are there's a reason that I'm being delayed. Maybe there's something ahead that I need to be delayed so it can pass by, so it doesn't impact me. So I try to give myself grace, and I try to lead with patience, right? When it comes to those things. And so unpacking what emotional wellness means, and how do we recognize when we are off balance. I can tell for myself when I'm off balance or when I'm not feeling, all together. There's several things that happen to me. I tend to forget a lot of things, and I tend to, what I'm feeling on the inside is displayed in my physical environment. And I'll explain that. For the most part, I'm pretty organized. I like to keep my house clean. I like to keep my area well organized. And when I am dealing with a lot emotionally, and my emotional backpack is full, and there's no room for anything else, and life is just lifing, as they say, certain things begin to happen to me. And the first place that you can see it is my closet and my office. And so for me, when I start noticing the symptoms, then I'm able to deal with it, right? And the first thing is being able to notice when you're not yourself, or when things are really impacting you. And so it's important that we know the facts and that we do a reality check. And sometimes I have to give myself a reality check. Like, listen, what's really going on? What's really going on? And how do we solve this? How do we keep from going back into this repeated cycle and on this hamster wheel week after week, day after day, month after month? And for me, it takes me putting things in place and taking action on some things to, one, make sure that I'm dealing with my stress. And one of the ways that I deal with my stress is I work out, I pray, I journal. And one of the things that I'm doing now, and I've been doing this now for about, I want to say I started in August. Each morning I'm getting up and I walk at least 3 miles. And some mornings I have on worship music, praise and worship music. Some morning I have on motivational speaking. Some mornings I'm listening to different sermons. Some mornings I'm listening to, whatever. But in that, I'm spending time just kind of praying and talking to God. And for me, that helps. That's my time outdoors. I'm getting the fresh air. I'm getting that vitamin D, and I'm moving this body. And for me, that helps me with dealing with stress. And so 1 in 5 adults in the United States live with mental health conditions. And if you've been here, you know that we've talked about mental health conditions, and we've talked about statistics. Men are less likely to speak out, but stress impacts them just as deeply. Women, we're more vocal with our girl. Listen, someone asks us how we're doing, depending on the person, right? Some people are more reserved and not as open to share. I'm going to talk about it all. We're going to talk about it, right? And I'm the queen of talking about it. And so men are less likely to talk about what's going on with them. Women are twice as likely to experience depression during major life transition. And if you've been here, if you've been on the page, I'm talking to my sisters, and we're walking through perimenopause and menopause. And many of us are in transition. Transition in the home doesn't just impact the women, it impacts the men as well. It impacts the children as well. And so tonight, I'm not just speaking to one person, I'm speaking to the whole family, because these things Stress and emotional well-being is something that we all deal with. And just because you're a child doesn't mean that you deal with it any less than the person next to you. Long-term stress increases your risk for heart disease, high blood pressure, and diabetes. So when I have a patient that comes to my office and they have high blood pressure, they have diabetes, they have other things going on, or they come and they're presenting with these vague symptoms. And we talk, because that's what we do. I spend quite a bit of time with my patients. We sit and we talk and we get to the bottom of what's going on. And it may not happen in one visit, but we're taking the time to figure out what's going on. And maybe it's not high blood pressure. Maybe this individual is under a large amount of stress, and helping them to develop ways to manage and deal with stress and to create outlets can definitely help them. But we have to monitor and make sure that we're doing our due diligence as a healthcare provider, me as a healthcare provider, to make sure that I'm providing my patients with everything that they need from a physical standpoint, emotional standpoint, the whole person, right? If you've ever come to my office, you know the type of provider I am, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to spend time navigating those things. Stress doesn't just live in our minds, it lives in our bodies as well. Over time, it wears us down. It wears down the immune system. You can begin to have joint aches and tension. For me, I tend to get tight shoulders and neck and the tension headaches. And so for me, stretching is another way that I help deal with stress that can get trapped inside my body. And it's important that you find what works for you. But overall, stress can also affect your sleep, insomnia, or individuals are sleeping too much. I tend to escape. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm just going to go to sleep. I'm not dealing with it. That's how I used to handle it. I'm just going to sleep. If I'm asleep, I don't have to think about it. If I'm asleep, I don't have to deal with the problems. But when I wake up, they're right there. And it's even more stressful. And then it drains your energy. And one of the things we want to make sure is that we're energized. We're doing all the work, right? We're doing all the work on ourselves. We're getting our rest. We're getting our sleep. We're drinking the water. We're eating right. We're exercising right. And now we're learning some tips that can help us to deal with and manage stress. How many of you, if you can think back over the last week, how do you feel stress in your body? How does stress show up in your body? Do you get headache? Do you get those tight shoulders? Insomnia? Think about it. And if you can get that thing in mind, think about something that you can do to help with that. So if it's the tight shoulders, is there a stretch that you can do throughout the day? If it's the headaches, are there any trigger points, or acupuncture points that you can use, massage, things that you can do, peppermint tea, things like that can help. Getting up, moving your body can definitely help. And so it's important that we are able to recognize stress and how it shows up in our bodies. What does emotional wellness really mean? What does that really mean? Emotional wellness isn't just absence or the lack of mental illness. It's how you manage life challenges and how you stay balanced and focused and how you're able to bounce back. How resilient are you? I used to think I was very resilient. I had to be. I had no choice. However, some things happened, some situations happened, and they lingered longer than I felt was healthy. And I wasn't bouncing back like I used to, right? And so I started being hard on myself and doubting my ability to kind of get through these things. But it wasn't that I couldn't get through them. It's just that those situations were tough. They were hard. And there was no quick bounce back. I had to walk through that process. And some people feel like when trauma happens, that you just smooth over and keep it moving. For some people that works, some it doesn't. And so you have to figure out what you need to do to be able to get back in it. And it's your ability to stay centered when life throws your curveballs. It's being aware of your emotions and managing them instead of letting your emotions control you. It's giving yourself grace and setting limits and setting boundaries and staying connected to what matters the most. I know for me, I tend to get lost in the weeds whenever I'm stressed. The to-do list, all the things that I got to do, that sometimes I don't take the time to just sit and be, or to be grateful for the things that are around me, right? And so my gratitude levels can be low when times of high stress. And so reminding myself of the things that I'm grateful for are definitely helped me to kind of get back on track. And so I don't get stuck and lost in the weeds. When your emotional wellness is strong, you can handle stress better. So when you're good overall and emotionally you are well, you can handle things better. You can make clearer decisions and you can maintain healthy relationships. Whenever there is, I don't want to say a breach, or whenever there is, when your emotional wellness is not, 100%, then that's when we begin to have those relational issues, because we don't have the capacity to have the hard conversations. Like me, I was a runner, right? Situations come up, conflict come up, I'm out. I'm in that car, I'm on 95 somewhere, going somewhere. But it took me doing the work, it took me walking through some hard and tough conversations and walking away from some things and people, voluntarily and involuntarily, right? And it took me doing the work to get to a point where I felt like my emotional wellness was where it needed to be. When you think about your stress level right now in this moment, 0 is no stress, 10 is the worst stress you've dealt with. So 0 to 10, where would you say your stress level is right now? If I had to think about where I am in terms of my stress level, I said number 4 right now. I can come and sit and talk to you guys all day long, and many people are like, you don't look nervous at all. Well, internally, I'm like that duck with my feet up under the water, just going a million miles a minute. And so I deal with stress differently. Some people, you can see it. For me, I don't feel it, but I know that I am. And so I have to be able to recognize when I'm stressed so that I don't overdo it. So recognizing stress, when we all experience stress differently, but the signs are universal. And so let's identify a few. We talked about some of them, right? But I want to dig a little deeper into that. Some common signals that we're stressed is lack of sleep or changes in our sleep, constant fatigue. You're tired all the time. You can go to bed and sleep 12 hours, 10 hours, 8 hours, 9 hours, and still wake up tired the next morning. Brain fog, forgetfulness, or irritability. When I tell you, and for my sisters, my girlies who are going through the transition of life, and I was listening to a Audible, and I can't remember who the author is right now, but she talked about it as an upgrade. Our bodies are giving us the upgrade. And I'm just going to put this plug in here. I've been saying that our bodies are not betraying us. It's evolving. We're getting upgrades. How about that? We're getting upgrades. And so brain fog, forgetfulness can also be signs and symptoms that women experience during perimenopause and menopause. So if you think about it, if you're constantly stressed, you're already dealing with those symptoms, and then life throws stressors at you, it just makes things a little worse. And so this is not a doom and gloom message. This is a informative so that you can be aware of the symptoms, and that way you can know what to look for and know how to deal with them when they present. Headaches, stomach issues, the nervous stomach, the upset stomach, the acid reflux. For some individuals, when they are stressed, their acid reflux is worse, and they have, more symptoms and greater symptoms than as they would if they weren't as stressed. Isolation, individuals tend to isolate themselves, and anxiety increases, and feeling of being on edge constantly. When we think about the changes of season, we live in Florida, so we don't really have, for those of us who are in Florida, we don't really have the changes of season like many people do in other areas of the world. And I was just recently in Germany, and the season was changing there. And I can remember having a conversation with my sister while she was home about seasonal depression. And we, while she was here, did a workup on her and my niece, and their vitamin D levels were really low. And it's because they don't get enough vitamin D there because of the seasons. And if we think about individuals who live in different areas of the world, and I think it's Seattle, which is an area where it rains quite a bit, seasonal depression is real for some individuals. And so it's a dip in the mood caused by shorter daylight hours. I wake up in the morning and at 7, it's still dark outside. But can you imagine shorter hours, shorter daylight, right? Some individuals, it's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and it's dark outside. We're getting ready for daylight savings time coming up, I think, in November. And so that impacts individuals. And so seasonal depression levels increase during those times. It's not laziness, it's biology. Less sunlight lowers the serotonin levels, which can affect your mood and your energy. So when we think about it, the environment has a lot to do with how we feel and how we process stress in our bodies. And so I want to make sure that we are aware of that and we are taking note of that, right? Because if we can recognize the symptoms, if we can recognize what's going on in ourselves and our loved ones and our friends, then when they start acting a little different, when they start isolating themselves or seem to be a little distant, then we can pinpoint those symptoms and help to bring them up out of it when we see that they're going down into the rabbit hole of depression or anxiety or what have you. But here's the good news. Even with all of those things, our bodies are intuitive. Our minds are smart, and we can train both our bodies and our minds to respond differently to stress. So let's walk through a few of these practical tools, right? And so one of the things that for me, being able to have things in my book bag that I can pull out when I need, when I'm stressed and I feel like I can't talk to people, because in those moments, I have to be able to process and navigate my feelings and my thoughts. And sometimes I don't have the words to put to how I'm feeling, or I don't have the words to respond to a stressful situation. So for me, journaling is the way to go. I can write everything out. I don't have to worry about feeling judged. I don't have to worry about being rejected. I don't have to worry about what the other person is saying. It's just me, my journal, and God. And prayer is another one, or meditation for some people work. These all create spaces between you and your stress. For me, I'm able to get those words and those thoughts out of my head and onto paper, and I'm not walking around carrying them anymore. And when I get them out on paper, then it's freeing up the space for positive things, right? So if it's stress and I'm journaling about whatever it may be, then I can get that out, and it's freeing up space for peace. It's freeing up space for happy things. It's freeing up space for other things. Try journaling 3 things that you're grateful for each morning. And I know I've shared this before, as well as breath work, and just finding time to just sit still. 5 minutes a day at the beginning of your day to give yourself that time to just sit and breathe can be so important. And it can help you get throughout the rest of your day, especially if you have some stressful situations that are unavoidable that you have to deal with. It'll help set you up and help give you that framework that you can build upon to further deal with stress as it presents itself. And I just want to say, we all need time to reflect. We all need time for a reset, and we all need to give ourselves grace. Move your body is another thing that you can do. Exercising is medicine. Let me tell you, I've had 3 surgeries on my left knee and 4 on my left knee, and 3 on my right knee. And when I don't exercise, when I'm not active, my knees are stiff, my body is sore, they hurt. I can't get up and down the stairs as easy. I do when I push myself, but I find that whenever I work out, I don't have issues with my knees. And so me wanting to get out and walk, and again, I'm doing those 3 miles, 3.1 miles a day or even more, my knees don't hurt. I'm building the muscles around my knees that are helping to support them. And so moving my body, it helps to release the endorphins, it improves my mood, and it reduces anxiety. I don't want you to overcomplicate it. You don't have to go out and start this whole workout regimen. You don't have to have a whole gym or all this fancy equipment. Walking and stretching is something that we all can do. Dancing. I've had this desire to dance in the rain. And I promise you, the next time it rains, I'm going outside and I'm dancing in the rain. I don't know where it came from, but I'm going to go dance in the rain. But dancing helps. Or lifting something heavy. If you do have access to a gym, or if you have access to, workout equipment, that helps. I can tell you, if I'm stressed or if I'm upset and I go on a walk or I go and work out, I feel so much better afterwards because it's those happy hormones that are being released that makes us feel better. And again, the goal is consistency. It's not perfection, right? Don't compare yourself to anyone else. Just do it. Just do it. Same as plug for Nike. Just do it, right? And don't overcomplicate it. So live activities that you can do: walking, exercising, pairing up with a buddy, right? So there's different things that you can do in real life, right? I can't tell you how many times on social media I'm scrolling and I'm saving workouts. 9 times out of 10, I don't even go back and do them, but I'm scrolling all the workouts, right? But find something that works for you that you can do, right? Instead of watching it on TikTok or watching somebody work out in real life, right? And you can use those as tools to guide you in the different exercises that you can do. And as you know, we all need to be working out at least 30 minutes a day, 30 minutes of moderate intensity exercise, 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, for a total of 150 minutes per week. And then feeding your mind, like literally feeding your mind. Our nutrition affects our mood. If we're hungry, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get hungry and cranky. I know I can. If I'm hungry, I can get pretty cranky. So I try and keep snacks and stuff around. And sometimes I get busy and I forget to eat, which I'm doing a lot better. Sometimes my husband has to call me and remind me. But I feel like I'm doing a lot better. And again, we talked about the foods that help us age well. I think it was in September. We talked about that during our series on aging well. The omega-3s from the salmon and the walnuts, they help support brain health. So if you missed those sessions, go back and take a look at one or all of those series, and learn more about the impacts of food that we eat and how it helps our bodies. The B vitamins, the vitamin B12, the B, 3s, 2s, all those things. And then magnesium also helps to regulate your mood and reduce fatigue. I take magnesium and have been for years, but it wasn't until I was able to optimize that, right? And maximize the amount of magnesium that I take that I'm able to sleep better. And it wasn't until I met with a functional medicine provider who was able to help me to navigate some of the symptoms that I was having and things that I can do with foods and supplements. And then cut back on the sugar and caffeine, right? It helps. And I just posted a reel that, listen, when you are having that afternoon slump or midday slump, grab something, some water, protein, not the sugary drinks and not the caffeine, because those things can cause us to have that caffeine dump at the end of the day or crash at the end of the day. And we don't need that. We don't want our energies to crash. We want a steady state of energy throughout the day, not the highs and lows and the peaks and valleys. And typically what happens is when you're experiencing that, your blood sugars are increasing and dropping. And so you want to make sure that you're staying steady state and that your cortisol levels aren't all over the place either. So protecting your energy. You can't heal in the same environment that is draining you. That's why for me, vacations are so important, because I live a high functioning life. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a business owner, I work full time, I do a whole lot of other things. And I need that time to get away. I need that time to be able to just reflect and disconnect. So getting away helps me. Saying no without guilt. Rest without apology. Now that's one to unload. That's one to unpack. Saying no without guilt. I could not say no at one point without feeling guilty or providing an explanation. No is a sentence, period. It doesn't require an explanation. It doesn't require any additional words after it. Your no is your no. And we all need to learn how to practice that. We all need to learn how to practice that, saying no without feeling, guilty about it. And then resting without apology. I used to feel, there was a time where I had to take a leave of absence and I didn't have energy to do anything. And I would find myself closer to the time where my husband would come home that I would get up and try and force myself to do things. And one day he asked me, why are you doing that? Like, you don't need to do that. I don't need to apologize for resting. I don't need to. And it wasn't him. It was me putting that pressure on myself. And so if you're tired, just get the rest. Even if you just don't feel like doing anything, it's not being lazy. Boundaries are not selfish. And I know we talk about boundaries and there's a lot of good and negative talk about boundaries and trauma, right? Everything's a trauma, but we're not going to go there. Trauma is trauma to that person who experiences what I'm going to say. But boundaries that you put in place for yourself and for others, it's self-care. For instance, my phone goes into do not disturb at 10 o'clock. And I had to do that because I would have certain individuals that would call me and I felt pressured to answer the phone and to have those conversations and to talk to them or to be there for them or, what have you. Now, my phone does ring for my emergency contacts or my favorites. And so those are usually my immediate family members who can get to me during that time. But boundaries are so important. And we need to be able to set those good boundaries. And there's a book that I read. It's called Good Boundaries and Goodbyes. And there's another book on boundaries that I read that kind of helped me to understand that more. Support and screening. So what does that mean? Taking care of your emotional health means knowing when to ask for help. And that takes courage. It's not weakness. And there was a situation that I walked through that I needed to get help. And it wasn't until I acknowledged that I had a situation and when I had to acknowledge that I was not well and that I needed help. And I had a friend, and I will say, Angie, thank you. Angela, thank you for calling me out. Thank you for helping me to see that I was in trouble. I was in trouble and I didn't see it. Right. I was the only one who couldn't see it, but she helped me to see that. And I'm so grateful for her because that helped me to kind of move into the healing that I needed during that time of my life. So seeking help it's not a sign of weakness. So what are some of the screenings that we can do and recommended screenings? So for any of my patients that come to my office, prior to coming, I send you those questionnaires. We ask about depression. We ask about anxiety. I ask about substance abuse and all the things, right? And so depression screenings should be happening at least once a year when you go see your primary care provider, as well as anxiety screening for everyone. Some guidelines said individuals 65 and under, but everyone needs to be screened for anxiety. And then substance use screening should happen at every encounter. And every time you go and see your healthcare provider, they should be asking you at minimum during your annual physical exam, because some individuals who don't necessarily present in a way that we would think that they would have a problem are 9 times out of 10 the ones that are struggling. And so we can't judge a book by its cover. So especially if you're using alcohol, nicotine, or food to cope with stress, we need to have those conversations. And again, we and I, as healthcare providers, need to encourage these conversations with our patients. And it's something that I definitely prioritize. Sorry about that. I don't know what just happened. My screen just kind of went blank. But I want to encourage you to share this message with someone. If stress is impacting your sleep, your mood, your health, reach out. Get help, because I can tell you, the longer you go without help, the worse the situation is going to become. And if we can recognize the symptoms, if we can recognize the symptoms, the quicker we can get the help that we need, the quicker we can get back on track and in line with where we need to be. Remember, your body and your mind work together. And we talk about the whole person, right? Protect your peace, prioritize your joy, and take care of your whole self. I know I spent a few minutes longer on this topic, but I felt it was one that we really needed to focus on tonight. So if you need help, if you're dealing with stress and you can't figure out how to navigate it and you just need someone to talk to, reach out to us. We'll listen, we'll help you get the resources that you need and help you get connected so that you can get the help and care that you need. Wells Legacy Health and Wellness, we're here for you, not just your physical body, but mind, all the things, the whole person. Our goal is to ensure that our patients, our family, and our community have the resources that they need to be able to advocate for themselves and to create a legacy of good health. And that also includes your mental health and your ability to manage and deal with stress. This is Dr. Latoya Wells. For those of you who need primary care provider, we are accepting new patients. We don't have a wait list. Some providers that I'm hearing right now is anywhere from 6 to 9 months to get into a primary care provider and even longer for a specialist. And we are accepting insurance and we're offering new services. So stay tuned to more information from Wells Legacy Health and Wellness. Thank you all so much again for joining us as we continue our discussions on all things health and wellness. Until next time, stay safe and be well. This is Dr. Latoya Wells. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.